good in the neighborhood, people of the internet? Welcome in to The Sweat. I'm your host, Tyler Sullivan, and joining me is the ever insightful Reid Fowler. And as you can watch us, whatever corner of the internet that you are watching us, we make it easy for you by just hitting the watch tab on the DK Live app. So basically, one-stop shop for info for DFS.
Yeah, tonight we're kicking off Week 8 in the NFL. I can't believe it's already Week 8 with the Dolphins and the Texans. This barn burner squaring off tonight. And to help us dive into this matchup, we bring in our experts, DK Live, Jeff Ulrich and Ian Hartitz of the Action Network. Obviously, you can find that Action Network app everywhere. You can find apps on iPhones, Androids, pagers, Blackberries, Sidekicks, if they still exist.
All that stuff. Just yell at the window. Someone probably will know what it is. All right, boys, let's get into it. Who do we like in this contest? We'll start under center here. Brock Osweiler, apparently still a thing in the NFL. He's been pretty solid as of late in his last 2 starts with the Miami Dolphins. Meanwhile, it's the opposite case for Deshaun Watson, who's actually been a dud over the last 2 weeks. Ian, who do we like out of these two?
Man, I'm not picking Brock over Deshaun, even if there's a fire. I mean, you can't put a situation in front of me there, but
it's Brocktober. What are you talking about?
Fair enough. The one concern I did have was with Deshaun Watson's rushing. You know, he's been dealing with this punctured lung and like ribs problems. Like, obviously not something you want to continuously get hit with while you're dealing with. But, you know, he had 7 rushes last week against the Jaguars. Only gained about 14 yards. So wasn't super productive, but it was still good to see him, taking chances like that. But look, I've been surprised at how good Houston's secondary has been this year. But, I mean, at the same time, I think they haven't really faced a quarterback like Watson in an offense with this much firepower. And I don't think really in 4 or 5 weeks. So I'll take Watson in this matchup.
All right, I feel like it was like Fitzmagic earlier in the year. Now it's Brocktober. And now, Jeff, are you still feeling this, or is this all turning into a Jekyll and Hyde situation?
This is a weird game. I mean, it doesn't really have a huge point total. Miami kind of plays at a slower pace. And then you have Deshaun Watson coming in with like a hurt lung. Like, he's not even flying back with the team. He's not allowed to like fly or something. We don't really know the extent of the injury. And then he's played really poorly the last 2 games. And Houston has tried to run the ball to protect him. So he's got a really bad O-line too. I'm probably going to get fired for saying this, but I actually think Brock might be the play here.
All right.
I feel he might be more prone. Hey, I mean, I feel like he's going to be more likely to be in a higher volume passing situation, and he really hasn't played that badly. I think he might be the play for showdown. I don't really have much more to say. It just kind of sounds ridiculous me even saying it on air, but I really do. I wouldn't be shocked if he outscored Watson this week. And it's not anything about talented player. It's just the situation and the state these 2 teams are in and players.
It is amazing to start the year. You know, you were starting it thinking, Deshaun Watson, arguably we're talking about Patrick Mahomes starts. Now it's, maybe Brock Osweiler is better for this matchup.
Yeah, Jeff
absolutely insane.
She's selling out for the graphic there. I see you, Jeff. I see that. Well, let's go to the backfield. We have Kenyon Drake, again, another potential bust who we thought would have done well. And Lamar Miller, again, another bust. Crushed it last week, though, as they both found the end zone. Which one of these guys do you expect to have a better game tonight? We'll go with you, Jeff.
I mean, I'll be honest. I think that if you're doing showdown lineups, you should actually be prioritizing these running backs over the quarterbacks, if that makes sense. I think if you have to go for upside, you're probably looking at Miller. The Dolphins' run defense really bad. They got absolutely manhandled last week by Kerryon Johnson. So his upside probably a little bit better, but do not discount Kenyon Drake, who's moved into the more of the Alvin Kamara role. His passing targets are up, very skilled back. And again, if the Dolphins get behind, it's probably just going to, realize his upside more too. So like I said, I like both of these players over their quarterbacks for tonight.
Yeah, we have a 44.5 implied game total. What do you think here?
I like Drake here. I mean, look, he's almost turning into like this year's version of what Lamar Miller used to be in Miami. He's splitting plenty of time with Frank Gore. It's frustrating to watch as a fantasy investor, but he still has been, the de facto #1 fantasy back there. He's playing 63% snaps, 40% for Gore. And Drake's getting 8.3 carries and 5.6 targets per game. So even if Miller might be getting an extra touch or 2, I'll take Drake's, what I believe is more fantasy-friendly workload. And something to keep an eye on, Alfred Blue has 3 carries inside the 5-yard line this year, and Miller only has 1. So it's been a little bit more of a committee since Miller returned from that chest injury that cost him a week. So something to keep an eye on moving forward, because apparently Dante Foreman is just nowhere to be found. I mean, I know he was eligible to come off PEP recently, but it's Miller and Blue's backfield for the time being.
Blue is just always sticks around.
Always there. Yeah. Always around. I feel like every year I hear Alfred Blue in usually week 8.
Well, because Lamar Miller always gets hurt. Anyway, moving on. DeAndre Hopkins is the highest price player on the board at $12K. Is he going to be worth the money tonight? Ian, what do you think?
I think so. I can't wait to watch this matchup, though. We got Xavier Howard, the Dolphins quarterback. Exactly, man. Saying DeAndre pushes off a little too much, and DeAndre just says, "Who's that?" But look, I mean, Milk is like the most matchup-proof receiver in the league at this point. 17 of his last 22 games, he's either gained 100 yards or scored a touchdown. And also without a Kiki Kute, who's out with a hamstring injury, Hopkins has seen an additional target per game. So I think with their wide receivers dwindled down, I mean, we're just expecting overwhelming volume for Hopkins and Will Fuller here. Again, Xavier Howard is in my mind, one of the better cornerbacks in the league, but it's a matchup Hopkins can win.
Well, Ian, sticking with you, should he be considered for a captain spot at a whopping 18 grand? Really quick.
I think so. I mean, look at this. I mean, we're talking about this kind of being a lower scoring matchup, so it could be a situation. We saw, AJ Green go for 3 touchdowns that one Thursday night game. So, I mean, Hopkins might be the best player on the field. I don't mind rolling with him as the captain.
Well, Jeff, like you mentioned, Will Fuller, Kiki Kute out. Will Fuller is the deep threat guy. Miami gets gashed by deep threat receivers. What do you think about Hopkins here?
Yeah, again, it just comes back to the Deshaun Watson factor. I'm a little bit worried about how the Texans are approaching this game. I think they're going to try and go defense and run heavy again. I think they're going to try and protect Deshaun Watson, and that's going to drag down DeAndre Hopkins. It's not the matchup I'm afraid of. I just feel like the volume might not be as good as we expect it might be in this matchup. I think this might be, more of an ugly game, and it just looks that way on paper too. So I'm not really expecting a massive night. Obviously, it's always on the table with Hopkins, no matter the opponent. But again, for a captain spot, I think I would rather put one of the running backs in there. I think Lamar Miller or Kenyon Drake has a better path in this game to a big game. Doesn't mean you can't use Hopkins tonight, but yeah, that's the way I'm approaching this.
All right, fair enough. And now let's look a little bit deeper here. We kind of talked about this a little bit with the running backs here, the kind of the vultures in those backfields for touchdowns. Let's try to find a value play here, Jeff. Who's a cheap option that viewers at home can play tonight?
Well, I mean, I think Ian and I are both going to agree on this, but Jakeem Grant is in a really good spot. I mean, the Dolphins are so banged up that they're going to be finally forced to hopefully force feed him the ball tonight. They've been giving him like 3 or 4 targets a game, a handoff here and there, returning punts, and he's been super efficient even for fantasy, just in a limited role. But no Kenny Stills. Who's the other guy that I can't even remember? But they're banged up at wide receiver. He's basically going to be in a starting role tonight. So that's the point. Devontae Parker's out there too, but Jakeem Grant is the real value play I'm looking at tonight. I think he actually makes for a really good captain's pick, because if he gets you that one long play, you're set.
Game over there. Ian, what do you think? You agree?
Oh, yeah, I took the words right out of my mouth. Other receivers, Albert Wilson on IR.
Albert Wilson.
Yeah, it's all good. But, yeah, we're looking at Jakeem Grant, Devontae Parker, Danny Amendola, and these 3 wide receiver sets. Saw Grant play a season-high amount of snaps in the last week when these injuries already happened. If you do put him in that captain spot, though, make sure you grab that Miami defense in a small slate like this. Go ahead and get that Jakeem Grant punt return or kick return touchdown. Guy's explosive enough to make it happen. So, yeah, I'm definitely in on Jakeem Grant.
All right, I like that.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that, I think both of these defenses are definitely in play tonight. I mean, like I said, I am taking the approach that this isn't going to be like a shootout game. That means it's sloppy. That means one of these defenses is probably going to put up a big total. So maybe you go Miller in Houston, or maybe you go Grant and Dolphins.
No Mike Gesicki talk I see from you two guys. Huh. All right.
Sounds like it has.
We like players who score touchdowns, Reid.
I just wanted to say his name.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's tradition to bring it up, right? At this point. All right, guys, let's put your money where your mouth is for Slate Approved. Who is your lock tonight, Jeff?
I'll go with Grant. I mean, I really feel like this is going to be his coming out party. I think the Dolphins will be forced to use him. I think he's due for another big play. He's certainly capable of it. He's, kind of like a Terry Cohen type player. I'll go with Grant.
All right, Ian, stamp it.
I'm going Kenyon Drake here. I think we could see maybe in the second half of the season here him start to take over that backfield a little more. And, maybe Dolphins get out of playoff contention and we finally get that feature workload we're always waiting for. So I got Kenyon Drake.
All right, good stuff, guys. We'll welcome you back a little bit later in a couple segments in the show for more NFL talk, obviously. But next up, we're going to kick it over to the association and talk hoops.
Time for your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. I'm Brendan Glasheen. Rams head coach Sean McVay said Wednesday wide receiver Cooper Kupp is doubtful for Sunday's clash with the Packers. McVay added Kupp is making good progress recovering from a knee sprain in Week 6 against the Broncos. You should still entertain the idea of stacking the Rams. Robert Woods at 6,800 remains a bargain. He led the team in targets, catches, and yards. Last game at the Niners, Woods has surpassed 75 yards in 6 straight games. Very consistent. Sure, there will be more eyeballs on Woods, but the Packers have to respect Brandon Cooks, who is 6,900 on the Sunday slate. That's $100 more than Woods. Cooks demands attention because of his big playability downfield. This game has all the ingredients to be high scoring, so Green Bay might let Woods get his yards out of the slot, and then the focus might be preventing the home run connections with Cooks down the sideline. If you had to pick one, lean Robert Woods over Brandon Cooks.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome into some NBA talk here. The association obviously off to a great start. We've seen Steph Curry absolutely go bananas, the Greek Freak doing the same thing, and the Los Angeles LeBrons, well, they're off to a little bit of a shaky start.
Yeah, that's right. And to break it all down, we have our favorite NBA analyst, and also you see him on MLB. Of the two of you that you guys see on the screen right now, Matt LaMarca from the Action Network. We also have Adam Mancuda from Phantom Sports taking a little break from the NFL to fill us in on the NBA. And, well, this guy right here, Julian Edlow, who isn't a Boston homer, clearly by the looks of his shirt.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys, we're talking the showdown slate tonight between the Nuggets and those Lakers, where you three are charged to make the picks for tonight's contest. The first question, obviously, is about LeBron James.
Clearly.
The top two priciest players, LeBron at $13,200 and Nikola Jokic at $11,600. You can save some coin, obviously, with Jokic. He's averaging just a half a fantasy point less than James. Which one are you taking, Julian?
Yeah, I'm actually going to lean Jokic here if you're making me pick between the two. I think it's a fine spot for LeBron, but Denver is one of the better defensive teams in the NBA in the early going. Whereas we've seen the Lakers, yes, they have JaVale McGee, but they've really struggled against big men. We just saw DeAndre Ayton have a career high in DraftKings points of his short career last night, about 48 against the Lakers in that LA versus Phoenix game. So we've seen Jokic actually already beat up on Ayton and go for 82 DraftKings points against him in that monster triple-double he had. So I do think you can fit both of these guys if you go the right route in a showdown slate. But if you're making me pick, I'm going Jokic.
All right, Matt, you feel that same way? Are we going with King James here?
I'm in 100% agreement. I think the real answer is you play both, not in the captain spot because that's just going to cost you too much money. But if you play them as utilities, you could play both. But if I'm only picking one, it's going to be Jokic. I think this is just a pure smash spot for the Nuggets. If you look at the Lakers, they've played at the second fastest pace in the league this season. They've allowed the 5th most points per 100 possessions. The Nuggets have been really good on defense, as was previously mentioned. So I think that the Nuggets are definitely the side that I'm more interested in here. And if you look at just their rates on a per-minute basis, Jokic has been substantially better than LeBron this season, but he's had his minutes cut a little bit short. They won easily in their last game, so he didn't need to play a ton of minutes. I think Jokic is the side here for me.
All right, Adam, we going for the sweep here, or are you going to go contrarian?
No, I'm going with Jokic as well. And something to keep in mind is the Lakers just played last night, so they're going to be on the second of a back-to-back. How much is LeBron, if they're down a little bit in the second half, is he going to come off the floor at all? He might be a little tired from that game last night. I think that's part of it, of why I want Jokic. Also, Jamal Murray last night seemed to finally get his shot going after coming back from his injury earlier this season. So to me, that opens up the floor a little bit more for Jokic, a couple more assists here and there. I just love the guy. He's an extremely talented player. I think he's one of the top 2 or 3 centers in the league. And give me him with an extra day of rest. Going up against who? JaVale McGee? Is he going to really slow him down? I don't think so. So give me Jokic over LeBron tonight.
Very nice, very nice.
That matchup there is going to be nice.
It is going to be nice. Those two good teams there. Lonzo Ball has averaged 33 fantasy points in the 2 games that Rondo's been out due to a little skirmish that we saw with Chris Paul. Is he a must-play tonight? Matt, what do you think?
Not a must-play for me. In fact, I'm probably going to be fading him at his current price tag. I think the Lakers are probably going to be the side that draws the more attention in this spot. even though all three of us picked Jokic over LeBron, I would imagine LeBron's going to be the highest owned player. And I think people are going to look at Lonzo given the suspension issues for the Lakers. But the Nuggets have an injury of their own. They're without Will Barton. To me, that's just as important, if not more important. If you look at guys like Gary Harris and Jamal Murray, they've historically gone off in games where Barton has been out of the lineup. So I like both of the guys on the Denver side much more than I like Lonzo in that price range.
Phantom Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm not going to buy into Ball tonight. I know he's shot the ball a lot better, over 40% from three, but there's two guys I like better. One is Josh Hart, his teammate, who's actually cheaper on this slate, but has been putting up more points per game. He should be starting tonight as well, as he did last night. And then you also have Gary Harris, who scored, I believe, 18 points in their last game earlier in the week. With Barton out, more shots for him. He's only $300 more and is also putting up, on average, 6 more points a night than Lonzo. Plus, I just can't stand his father, so give me the other two guys that I just mentioned over Lonzo.
Julian, what do you think?
Yeah, we definitely don't need to roster Lonzo here. He's only been getting a couple more minutes per game since Rondo was suspended. He's taken nine field goal attempts per game without Rondo. He actually took more in that Houston game that Rondo played in until he was ejected at the very end. So far the narrative on playing ball, on the first night that Rondo was suspended, he was a little bit underpriced and we could get something out of him. But he's really just been right around 32, 33 DraftKings points with his minutes slightly going up. So now that his salary has kind of caught up to him and maybe gotten a little inflated because of the starting role, I think this is an easy place to pass. And Matt and I are continuously seeing eye to eye. I like both of those Denver guards, Murray and Harris, a lot more than I like Lonzo Ball. And if you go to the Lakers side, there's other places to pay down for sure.
All right, good stuff there. We do have some breaking news in the NBA. We're going to get that to you guys at the end of this segment. We're going to get through 2 more questions, but stick around. Some very intriguing NBA news circling around during, obviously, the sweat here. But first, Matt, who do you want as your captain tonight?
Gary Harris for me. I think going with like a mid-tier option is going to be an interesting strategy. I think people are either going to pay all the way up for the LeBron Jokic types at captain or try and go down to maybe like a JaVale McGee and save some money and try and just build a really deep lineup. But I think Harris might have the most upside on this slate given his price tag. He's played 3 games without Barton over the past 3 seasons. He has over 50 DK points in one, over 40 in the other. And in the last game, he didn't play really in the fourth quarter because of a blowout, but had 16 real points at halftime. So when Barton is out of the lineup, Harris is just a stud. He's somebody that I'm putting in my captain spot, not going to have to pay up for, terribly much to do so. I can still get LeBron and Jokic with him, and I think that I feel really good about that.
Cool. Julian, hit us with it.
Well, I referenced cheaper options on the Lakers earlier, and one of those guys is Lance Stevenson. He's only $3,000 in utility. If you captain him, he's $4,500. He's cheaper on this showdown slate than he is on the classic slate, which is impossible. Something went wrong. He's coming off a ridiculous 48 DK point game in 25 minutes last night in Phoenix. Obviously, that's inflated. I don't expect that again. That's a lot of Lance just kind of putting on a show during garbage time. But if he can give us anything in between the 14 DraftKings points that he had the previous game, I know he's already proven capable of scoring 20. If he can get us anything between 20 and 30 DK points in that captain spot for just 4,500, I want that. And then I'm easily fitting LeBron and Jokic and whatever else I want. And one of the reasons I do want to play LeBron with Jokic, LeBron only played 28 minutes in that blowout last night in Phoenix, so LeBron should be pretty fresh here as well.
All right, Adam, you referenced Josh Hart earlier. Are you going with him as your captain or no?
No, I'm actually going to go with another Laker, and that's Kyle Kuzma. The reason for that is he's exploded given his opportunity, whereas I think Magic and the Lakers have been trying to showcase Ingram and Ball in potential trades later in this season. Obviously, with Ingram out, they don't have that ability. So now they're going to start Kuzma, who, as we know, is just a more polished player right now than Mr. Ingram. So I look at the matchup. I know Kuzma's young. He's got that energy. I like the matchup and what should be a fast-paced game against the Nuggets. I don't see anyone on the other end of the floor that's going to be able to slow him down. So give me Kuzma. Then, again, you try to match up with some of the guys that we can mention on the value side to also then obviously get LeBron and Jokic in your lineup. But I like Kuzma in this one.
Look at that, Adam, with the perfect segue here. So we are in value. Obviously, if you're paying up, it's some of those high-priced guys, or if you're obviously saving at that captain's pick, who is a value that people should be looking at rostering if you need to save money? Adam, stick with you.
Yeah, I got two quick ones. One is Monte Morris, the backup guard for the Nuggets. He's gone over 22 points in each of the games since Will Barton's been out. And the other one is JaVale McGee. The guy has not gone under 31 DK points yet. He had a 41-point game yesterday. I like both of those options, pretty cheap. You stack the rest of your lineup that way.
Julian, what do you think?
I'm sticking with Lance Stevenson here, whether you want to captain him or just play him at $3,000, which is $700 cheaper than his price on Classic. I think you have to have Lance Stevenson one way or another in your lineup.
Adam, or excuse me, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Lance. He averaged just under a fantasy point per minute last year, and he's actually over that to start this season. So even if he only plays 20 minutes or so, he's a really strong value option. I'm also looking at Torrey Craig on the Denver side. He's going to play more minutes with Barton out of the lineup. He's not nearly the same kind of fantasy producer as Lance Stevenson is, but you can probably pretty safely pencil him in for like 25 to 28 minutes tonight.
All right, good stuff. We teased it earlier. Some breaking news in the NBA. This is according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. The Houston Rockets are actually making a renewed push to acquire Minnesota All-Star Jimmy Butler. That includes 4 first-round picks as their most recent trade offer. Again, that's according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Again, Jimmy Butler with James Harden and all those boys. That'd be pretty interesting. Julian, what is your reaction to this?
Well, anytime you hear 4 first-round picks in a trade, that certainly makes your eyes pop. You got to make salaries match here. So just quickly playing around with the trade machine, I would assume this would be some kind of Eric Gordon-based package with a couple of other guys, maybe PJ Tucker, maybe Nene in another contract. So it basically you're swapping Eric Gordon for Jimmy Butler and sacrificing 4 first-round picks. I think it's a good deal for Houston. Beating Golden State is still going to be tough. I would still favor Golden State if you just add Jimmy Butler right onto this Houston team. But it's certainly a winning piece, much more of a realistic piece than adding Carmelo and expecting to win. And when you factor it in, these NBA picks, I mean, you need not only lottery picks to build your team around, you need top 10, top 5 picks to really create something. So these picks from Houston, you assume they would scatter over like an 8-year period. The first 2 or 3 would have to be really back end of the first round picks. So maybe one of them comes into the lottery when, you know, James Harden, Chris Paul, and Jimmy Butler are long gone. So if I'm Houston, I like this move, and I'll pony up those picks to add Jimmy Butler.
Okay, interesting. Adam, what do we think here, too? Just reacting to this news off the cuff.
Yeah, if I'm the Rockets and I'm a Rocket fan, I sure hope that they're getting him signed also long-term. I think that's got to be part of this deal where he's going to work out that long-term extension with the Rockets, or else 4 first-round picks, no matter what part of the first round they're in, is actually quite a steep price if you're just renting Butler, right? So for me, I completely agree with Julian that if those picks are top 10, that's an insane amount of value going back to Minnesota. If they're later in the first round where it's much harder to find that gem, you know, that diamond in the rough, I think that's a fair deal, especially if Eric Gordon's going to be the one getting shipped out. It'd be very interesting, though, to see with all of that scoring punch on that team, just how it would all shake out. It would be really intriguing to see. I certainly think his scoring potential would go down, but his other, you know, measurables in terms of statistics would go up. I'd love to see it happen. I want to see the Warriors get a good series in the Western Conference Finals again. So very interested to see this happen, especially, though, the biggest thing for me is they got to sign Butler long term.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, him about to hit free agency and all that. Matt, what do you think quickly?
It's interesting, right? Because you hear 4 first-round picks. Your automatic assumption is they're going to be late picks, and it shouldn't hurt Houston that much. But I remember just a few years ago, some guy in Brooklyn traded 4 first-round picks to the Boston Celtics, and that certainly did not work out for them. So, you know,
there's a big difference there.
Yes, this Houston core is much younger. You know, they have James Harden, but Chris Paul ain't young. You already mentioned that Jimmy Butler is not a guarantee to stay there. So I'm just saying it's not without risk. I'd be curious to see if there are any protections on the first rounders. But again, either way, it's hard to see them competing with Golden State regardless.
Definitely.
I mean, one last quick point on this. From my understanding of it, Jimmy Butler would be silly to sign an extension given what he can get on the free agent market, even if it's returning to Houston. So I don't think he's going to sign an extension in this trade if it happens. I think he would have to maybe just give his word that he's willing to stay there and then look to re-up after the season. So even if Houston makes this deal, Butler could go back on his word and they could still kind of get screwed here, but you would assume there would be some kind of agreement that there's long-term interest for after the regular season.
Yeah, almost like a
New York
similar situation
2019
you see with Kyrie Irving in Boston over there. It's kind of the same sort of deal there.
George.
You have to wait, and that's usually how these things go now. Again,
Seems fishy.
just to rehash on it before we go to break here, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, the Houston Rockets are making a renewed bid for Minnesota star Jimmy Butler, and it could include 4 first-round picks.
It's like the Raiders trying to acquire all these first-round picks. All right, you three, stick around because we'll need you at the end of the show. NHL is coming up soon, but let's hear from Adam Levitan with this week's installment of Levitan's Leverage.
I'm Brendan Glasheen. Time for Levitan's Leverage with the star of the segment, Adam Levitan. Levy, looking at 3 guys you like this week. Hey, Ben Roethlisberger coming off the bye week. He's got Cleveland this week. 6,100. Why do you like Big Ben?
Yeah, really cheap price for Big Ben. We know how much better he plays at home. Also get the Steelers completely healthy here as they come out of the bye. As you mentioned, they catch a Cleveland team back-to-back road games. Played overtime last week. They likely to be without 2 of their top 3 cornerbacks in this game. So Ben Roethlisberger, to me, at home, right there with Jared Goff for the best quarterback play on the slate.
Kareem Hunt is 7,100 versus the Broncos. He's taken off these last 4 weeks, averaging 149 yards from scrimmage, 6 total touchdowns over that span, plus he's facing a horrid Denver run defense. Just too good of a spot to pass up, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way you beat the Denver Broncos is on the ground. Their 2nd DVOA against the pass, 28th DVOA against the run. I mean, they've been getting absolutely shredded by running backs, and Kareem Hunt is a very talented guy and an explosive offense, and most importantly has seen a bit of an expanded pass game role last couple weeks. So there's some concern that he still won't play in 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill, and some third downs, but it's just such a good matchup for him in such an explosive offense.
Last one, Colts got T.Y. Hilton back last week, and he produced just 25 yards, but a pair of touchdown grabs from Andrew Luck. 6,300 for Hilton this Sunday at the Raiders. Hopeful for more targets, I would think here, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason the volume was down on all the Colts pass game guys last week is because they were facing like the league's worst pass offense, overall offense in history in the Bills. They just didn't need it. In this spot at Oakland with Derek Carr slinging it around, I do expect Andrew Luck to be much more voluminous, and that will lead to a lot of targets for T.Y. Hilton. His favorite target, thought T.Y. Hilton looked very healthy last week while playing on almost every one of Andrew Luck's dropbacks, and with all the injuries that the Colts have had, T.Y. Hilton projects for somewhere 9, 10, 11 targets, and that's really good at 6,300. All
right, make sure you read up on Levitan's leverage on the DK playbook. Thanks as always, Levitan.
All right, good luck.
All right, great stuff from Levy as usual. Let's welcome back our NFL guys, DK Live, Jeff Ulrich, and the Action Network's Ian Hartitz, where you can get the Action Network on the app, the iPhone, the Androids. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah, but let's not forget about watching this very show and all of our hash brown or hashtag content on the DK Live app as well. We're going to take your pick where we give you guys a couple of options, 2 to be exact, and you can only pick one. Seems difficult for this guy, but not for these 2. So starting off with good old Cooper Kupp, who is listed as doubtful for Sunday, but his wideout BFFs, Brandon Cooks at 6,900 and Robert Woods at 6,800, will likely be catching a ton of balls from golf. If you can only take one, which one should you go with, Ian? What do you think?
I'm going with Brandon Cooks here. I'm a sucker for anytime I can pick the faster guy of the group. But I think both guys are set up well. I do like the Packers' young cornerbacks, Jair Alexander, Josh Jackson. I think they're moving in the right direction for the future. But, man, they've been 29th this year in DVOA against number 1 wide receivers. And I just think when they do meet a talented offense like this, they're not going to be able to hold up. We saw Stephon Diggs go for 2 touchdowns, 128 yards. Kenny Golladay had 98 yards and a touchdown. Marquise Goodwin just roasted them the last time we saw this defense. So, again, I think both receivers are fine, but I'll take Cooks here and, pair him with Jared Goff at only $6K as well.
Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, same deal. Speedy guy always. I mean, if anyone's read my tournament plays article on the DK playbook this year, Brandon Cooks is pretty much in there every week because I feel like he's always the upside spot. But look, Robert Woods is a nice play this week too. There's no doubt. I like both these guys. But Brandon Cooks against Tremont Williams, who's 35 years old, was never that fast to begin with. Oh boy, this could be big. So I'll go with Cooks here. Obviously love this game from a fantasy perspective, but this could finally be like the 40-point game we're waiting for from Brandon Cooks all year.
There's two guys that Jeff always chooses, Cooks and Tyreek Hill.
It's like Sean McVay in that video early in the offseason. Yeah, wow, Brandon Cooks is so fast. Absolutely so fast. Just enamored with it. But speed does kill in fantasy. So staying with you, Jeff, though, quickly. Andrew Luck, 6,300, and Andy Dalton is at 6,200. Both facing terrible defenses, Oakland and Tampa Bay. So which one are you going to play this weekend?
I mean, there's no doubt Luck is playing better of the two right now. But, from a one-week fantasy perspective, you saw the Colts get their run game going last week. I really feel like they're going to try and continue that trend just to give their defense a little bit of a break. And then you look at Cincinnati, who's kind of been regressing. This Tampa Bay game, Tampa Bay's been playing better. It's more likely that Dalton's going to have a higher volume passing game, in my opinion. So if I really had to choose between these two, they're not really my favorite plays of the slate, but I'd go with Dalton. I think he's got a path to a more fantasy-friendly game environment. And obviously he's still got A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd to work with. So I'll take Dalton here.
Okay, Ian, what do you think?
I'm going with Luck here. I do agree that, Cincy Tampa has a better chance for a kind of game-wide shootout. But, I mean, Colts are the league's fastest-paced offense. Luck's throwing the most passes, so I think he'll find a way to get his volume. And lately, that volume has been worth a lot more. We saw the offense take a step forward with T.Y. Hilton back last week. It looks like Jack Doyle could get back this week. But one thing to just keep an eye on, they've really kind of fixed the offensive line through Luck throwing shorter and just being kind of, getting healthier. They're number 5 in adjusted sack rate right now. So I'm just keeping an eye on one, Marlon Mack, who missed practice today with an ankle injury. Naeem Hines would be a nice value there. And then Doyle. Even if Doyle's in, though, just remember, Eric Ebron, 65% of snaps in the slaughter out wide this year. So he's still going to be plenty involved, even if Doyle is active.
Yeah, sneaky options there in Indy. Ebron.
Speaking of the Lions, Kerryon Johnson at 5,300 and Phillip Lindsay at 5,200, which is his highest price so far this season. Both had great games last week. You can only have one this week. Who do you prefer? Let's stay with you, Ian.
Yeah, I got Lindsay here. Freeman hasn't practiced all week. He's dealing with this ankle injury. Doesn't seem to be long-term, but could definitely keep him out this week. And, I mean, in this Chiefs game, yeah, there could be a ton of points on both sides, but I think Lindsay's got enough receiving ability to really be game flow independent here. Obviously, if Freeman does find a way to suit up, that'll change things, probably move towards Kerryon here, but I'll take this potential shootout spot. And with all these matchups this week, the Broncos have the second best in combined adjusted line yards per attempt. So Chiefs really haven't been able to stop anyone on the ground all year.
Jeff, what do you think? Is Kerryon, does he have, I mean, he has a lead role in this, what is it, like a four-headed monster. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if Theo Riddick missed, it'd probably bump up his upside a little bit more. But you really got to look at the matchup. I mean, the Seahawks have been kind of an underrated defense all year. People kind of wrote them off that, they were going to have a big fall off, but they've been good. And then you look at what Kansas City has given up to the running backs. Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman combined for like 135 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in their first matchup. And even if Freeman plays, I think I'd take Lindsay in this spot. He's been really solid. He's averaging like almost 6 yards per carry. He's much more involved in the pass game than Freeman too. So even if Freeman plays, it's not going to take down his PPR upside. I love Lindsay this week, and if Freeman misses, I think he actually is like a must play personally. So I'll lean Lindsay here, even though Kerryon obviously had a nice week last week.
All right, let's look at the tight end position now. Jimmy Graham, don't look now, quietly having a solid season for the Packers. And then there's David Njoku, one of Baker Mayfield's favorite targets. If you can only have one of those guys, who do you like, Jeff?
This is a tough one because, I mean, you have Graham, who's obviously trending in the right direction, but he's second fiddle to Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams has 15 red zone targets. Jimmy Graham has 5. David Njoku, obviously more of the primary target in Cleveland, but it's Cleveland, and that offense, you just don't know where it's going to go. I think this week, given the matchup with the Rams, I think this is a Jimmy Graham spot. One place that the Rams really haven't been that great at defending, especially against like really solid tight ends, is the tight end position. So I think I'll take Graham here, but this one is probably the closest of the 4 we've discussed.
Okay, Ian, I know that the tight end is a rookie quarterback's best friend, but then there's the other tight end who has Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. So where are we going?
Yeah, I'm going with the one with Aaron Rodgers here.
Yeah,
Call me crazy.
Seems pretty fair.
Yeah, there's just too many questions here with Njoku. He's been limited in practice this week with a knee injury, I believe it is, lower body either way. And, Jimmy Graham, he has Aaron Rodgers under center, guys. Isn't that hard? But it's going to be he might not have the same level of targets with Randall Cobb and Geronimo Allison probably coming back. But either way, he's their number 2 red zone guy. Yeah, it sucks. Devontae Adams is clearly that undisputed number 1 guy. But I think, you can kind of say the same thing about Jarvis Landry with the Browns. So just too much potential, I think, for kind of a team-wide dud in this road trip to Pittsburgh. So I'll take Jimmy Graham.
All right, good stuff. You guys stick around. We still have, obviously, more NFL coming in. We need your wisdom, even yours, Jeff. NHL is up in a bit, so stick around and stop scrolling right now. Stop it. You stop.
Thursday night football tonight. I'm Brendan Glasheen here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Dolphins facing the red-hot Texans. Houston's won 4 straight games, in large part due to its defense. But let's face it, the Texans have faced hot garbage at quarterback. Last 3 games, Dak Prescott, 2 more quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Nathan Peterman, and 2 more, Blake Bortles and Cody Kessler. Their winning streak is a bit deceiving. And what do you know, Brock Osweiler fills in again for the injured Ryan Tannehill. Brocktober, 12,300 as a captain, 8,200 as a flex tonight. He lives to see another week. The nickname, literally, it's the last week of October. Haha. As solid as Osweiler's been, you can't like this spot for him. He's on the road for the first time this year. Finns receivers Albert Wilson and Kenny Stills are out. Unhappy Devontae Parker is suddenly needed by Coach Adam Gase. And while you could say the revenge narrative motivates the former Texans $72 million signal caller, I argue the Houston defense knows his weaknesses. Plus, shouldn't J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, and the rest of the D want revenge on Brock? I mean, he did waste their valiant efforts in the playoff-bound 2016 season. The Texans' schedule has been soft, and they'll take advantage again this week. Brocktober ends October with an L. Hey, the name was fun while it lasted.
All right, welcome back into the sweat, and let's get into some NHL slate with our experts, Sean Newsham and Joe Holka of the Action Network. Boys, this segment is called Chase Fade, so it's pretty simple. Either you agree with the following statement and you chase it, or if you think we're idiots for even bringing it up, well, then you fade it. So, of course, you got to give us your takes on that as well. We do have the sweatometer on the side of the screen here, so let's get started, shall we? Bruins star David Pastrnak, the highest priced skater on the ice tonight. How do we feel about his $8,100 price tag against Philly, Sean?
Yeah, I'm going to fade on Pasta. So for me, Pasta's a really solid player. He's averages about 4 shots per game. He's scoring goals. He had a big night the other night. But in order for you to be playing a guy like Pastrnak up at that price point, you basically have to say he's the best player on the slate, because that price point is very restrictive for the rest of your lineup. And my issue is I just don't believe he is at that point tonight. You have guys like Tyler Seguin on the slate. I think that's a much better matchup than what you see for Pastrnak tonight.
All right, Joe, pasta for you tonight, or are you going with a different entree?
Totally agree with Sean. Definitely fading him as the highest priced player. It is a pretty good matchup, that saying. A Philly team that's allowed the most goals on the slate over the past month, but pretty egregious price when we have Kane and Seguin to pay up for on the slate. I think I definitely prefer the shot floor from those 2 other guys for sure. It's worth mentioning here that these guys are best friends. Yes. And when one's on the show and the other one's not on the segment, they're always really giving each other compliments. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, but that's not what they say behind the scenes. It's actually pretty vicious.
It's very different. It's very different. We have a powder keg of offense tonight, between the surging Capitals and arguably the NHL's best player in Connor McDavid. Chase or fade that this game will feature the most goals tonight. Sean, what do you think?
You know what? I'll actually chase this one. I think there's a really high likelihood that this game sees the most amount of goals. The only other game that really matches up with it is the Calgary-Pittsburgh game, and it's got a slightly higher total. But the Washington-Edmonton game features the best player in the NHL with Connor McDavid and the best goal scorer in the NHL with Alexander Ovechkin. So both teams have not been playing great defensively. Washington gives up a pile of shots, and Edmonton just has no defense to begin with. So I think there's a very reasonable likelihood that this game ends up the highest scoring game of the entire night tonight.
Joe, you agree, disagree? What do you think? I can't argue with it being the highest scoring game on the slate. They do own our highest goal expectation and our tools over at Labs, so I can't argue there. Definitely not chasing McDavid, though. Again, I still prefer Kane and Seguin in better matchups, even Ovechkin in that range for kind of a higher shot floor. I never really end up on McDavid, which ends up burning me sometimes because he doesn't shoot as much as some of these other guys. But, I mean, he has some of the most upside in the league, so I think he's a fine tournament play. I guess prefer these other guys.
All right, keeping up with the superstar talk here. Sid the Kid finally found the back of the net on Tuesday. Actually did it twice for his first goals of the season. The latest he's ever gone into a season without a goal in his career, which is pretty interesting. So, chase or fade, he scores against tonight against the Flames, Joe.
fading him scoring again tonight. It is a great price. Talked about it on the last show. This is only the second time he's been under 7K on the main slate in the last 4 years. But honestly, the thing with Crosby for me at this time of the season, this guy just doesn't really care about scoring titles. Like, he's a guy that's going to ramp things up as the season goes on. I don't think he cares about the MVP. I think all this guy cares about is Stanley Cups at this point. So I think that we'll see after the All-Star break him kind of ramp things up a little bit. At this point, I think his price is probably pretty fair for him. I'm just not really firing at Crosby until I see him ramp things up.
Sean, agree with that statement?
No, I'm going to disagree here with Joe. I think I'm going to chase it. I think that Crosby is in a very solid spot tonight against Calgary. As I talked about a little bit ago in the last segment, that this game has the highest total on the entire slate tonight. So I think there's going to be goals in this game. And Sidney Crosby was unlocked the other night with 2 goals, one of which being a fantastic goal in overtime in which he completely undressed Ryan Strome from Edmonton. So I think that Crosby getting on the score sheet again could be a very likely scenario tonight, and I really do like him to get on another goal tonight.
All right, from scoring goals to netminders now, Devon Dubnyk allowed 1 goal in each of his last 2 starts. So Chase fade. He'll have the most fantasy points among goalies tonight against a pretty weak Kings offense, Sean.
I'm going to fade this one on Dubnyk. Minnesota's been very poor overall, and LA has been equally as poor, if not more so. So this game definitely sets up for Dubnyk to get a win. However, when you look at the game in Arizona tonight, you had Darcy Kuemper coming off a very solid 35-save win for Arizona at Columbus the other night. Tonight, they get the very weak Vancouver team, who is without 2 defensemen as well tonight. They're going to most likely be without TNF, and then Alexander Edler was placed on the IR earlier today. So I think Arizona's in a great spot to win the game, and you get a savings with Kuemper. So I really like Darcy Kuemper tonight in net.
All right, Joe?
I'm chasing Dubnyk. I mean, this Minnesota team's the 2nd largest favorite on the slate. The Kings have lost 5 straight. The Wild have won 3 straight. Like, I just think it's a really good spot for this Minnesota team to kind of get rolling. This Kings team is just absolutely reeling right now. You mentioned the Coyotes. Only the Coyotes have scored less goals than the LA Kings. So I'd rather be on the other side of that and have the goaltender that's facing the team that can't score. Can we call Sid the kid anymore? How long he's been in the
I know,
league?
that's true. It's a weird nickname now that he's getting up there.
I mean, it's anyway, it's not important. All right, now, guys, Slate approved pick. Who's your lock for tonight's slate, Joe? What do you think? Justin Dowling at 3,100. He's playing on the first line in Dallas with Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. He's also going to be on the first power play unit. Really talented kid, 41 points in the American League last year. You guys want to call their cup. Anytime you're getting a guy at 3,100, and one of the best matchups possible against this Ducks team that's allowed the most shots in the league this year, I think he's a lock at 3,100. He's the best value on the slate. It's not close. Sean, what do you think?
For me, I'm going to go back to the Arizona game with Derek Stepan. Stepan's been fantastic this year at generating shots. However, he hasn't been scoring as much. He had 3 assists the other night. We are seeing a Vancouver team that, as I said, is without their 2 best defensemen and are going to have to fill many minutes tonight on the defensive end. And you have a guy like Stepan who generates a ton of shots. His Corsi 4 is fantastic. And the guys that he compares with in those categories are the guys like Tyler Seguin and the high-priced centers. So I think Derek Stepan against a very weak Vancouver team at home as the biggest favorite on the entire slate is a fantastic spot for you to look at tonight at center.
All right, great stuff per usual, guys. Appreciate it. And coming up on the Sweat, we're going to stroll down the aisle and check some of these NFL prices with our experts.
See what you did there.
Before Week 8 kicks off.
Carol and Isaac in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash, and we're talking Nuggets at Lakers, which will be a stiff contest tonight. Nuggets come in to the night as one of the 5 undefeated teams in the NBA. Meanwhile, the Lakers picked up their first win of the season last night in Phoenix. After last night's double-double, LeBron is the highest priced player in tonight's showdown contest at $19,800. But if you're seeking a cheaper option, take a look at Lance Stevenson coming in at a meager $4,500. The Lakers guard led the team last night with 23 points to go along with 8 assists and 8 rebounds. And with Rajon Rondo and Brandon Ingram still serving suspensions, Stevenson is likely primed for some more big minutes. The Nuggets have only improved since last year's postseason run, and this game offers up the opportunity to keep the momentum rolling. With Nikola Jokic leading the teams, the Nuggets center, who is averaging a double-double this season, comes to the contest as the 2nd highest priced player on the board at $17,400. So, Will the purple and gold pick up their first win at the Staples Center? Or will the Nuggets showcase just how good they are in front of a national audience?
All right, back here on The Sweat, and we have salaries in the NFL that needs sorting. To do that, we bring back our experts, DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Ian Hartitz of the Action Network. Again, you can find his app everywhere you can find apps.
Absolutely. And guys, Mitch Trubisky made a big jump in salary this week. He's actually up $500 to $6,100 as they take on the Jets. Yeah, well, I mean, we saw it last week. He was running around the field like a madman. He's had back-to-back games of 30-plus fantasy points. Does that continue here, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are talking about it. He's got this rushing floor that's really insane. He's got the most rushing yards among all QBs over the last 2 weeks. I mean, you watch him play, I think it's obvious the guy's clearly got, a ways to go as like a pocket passer and as a good NFL quarterback, but he's already there as a fantasy contributor. And I mean, if you look at the Bears offense, I mean, they got Taylor Gabriel, Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, Tariq Cohen, Anthony Miller. There's talent for him to throw to and get the ball to. So I think, it's not pretty all the time, but there's enough talent there, and Nagy's given him enough downfield opportunities that, yeah, I'm riding Trubisky here, especially in a home matchup against the Jets defense that is probably going to be missing 3 starters, no secondary again.
All right, Jeff, are we just doing this basically off of his running ability, or like we're talking about the talent around him here? What are we making this pick off of?
No, I mean, look, I think the salary's too low, so I'm really bullish on Mitch Trubisky, not just this week, but rest of the season. This is a good quarterback who's finally just, getting his way in the NFL. I mean, last year he played 7 games under John Fox. I mean, that's not a learning curve. That's like a recipe for disaster. So he's just getting his legs under him here. Like Ian alluded to, this guy's rushing ability, it's basically Deshaun Watson. I mean, go look at their comparables as far as metrics go. They're exactly the same. This guy's a ton of upside as a runner. He's fully capable of getting outside the pocket. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm, which actually makes him a better sort of fantasy prospect, in my opinion, than Watson in a lot of ways. So, yeah, he's going to make some mistakes along the way, but this Bears offense has Tariq Cohen going now, Taylor Gabriel with speed on the outside, Trey Burton. Look, I mean, I like I said off the top, this is too low in my opinion. I think this is a good matchup against the Jets too. Watch the weather. That might be one thing that drags him down a little bit this week, but otherwise, I'm still on him at this price. This is too low.
Yeah, just a friendly reminder, if you guys have questions, fill them up in Twitter, YouTube, and all the places you can find our show. But we're going back to price check here. Last week, Russell Wilson dropped 22 fantasy points after having his first 200-yard passing game since week 1. Come on, Russ. Is $5,900 the right price for Wilson against those Detroit Lions, Jeff?
Man, I mean, Russell Wilson, it just feels like Blake Bortles should be running the Seattle offense, I mean, they hand it off. They try and throw as little as possible, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is too much. I mean, if he's not going to run the ball and Seattle's not going to get in shootouts and chuck it around the field, why pay $5,900 for Russell Wilson when the upside is 22 fantasy points? It sucks to say because Russell Wilson should be in the offense like the Chiefs, sling it around the field, running for 50 yards a game, but he's not. I mean, the Seahawks are playing conservative, boring football. I guess it's kind of working for them right now, but it's a real waste of Russell Wilson's talent, and I'm not paying this price for him.
Yeah, Ian, you have Schottenheimer calling these plays on offense, and obviously he's run first, and we see Wilson have a second season or a second half of the season surge. We've seen it in the past. Does he continue this, especially this week? What do you think?
I mean, the offense is playing pretty well. I mean, I wasn't high on Schottenheimer going into the year. I don't think anyone was, but Wilson's thrown for multiple touchdowns in these games, but it's just, I can't bet on that happening going forward. He's had 4 straight games with under 30 pass attempts. And like Jeff alluded to, I mean, 2.8 rush attempts per game this year for Russell Wilson. His previous career low was 4.5. So we're really just seeing a new, more efficient, more just pass first, second, and last Russell Wilson, but he's not getting the chances to ring up all these pass attempts in a game. So Lions have one of the slowest paced offenses in the league. So I don't like the chances of this really getting into a shootout. So I'm going to pass on Russell Wilson this week. I am okay having some exposure to Doug Baldwin, who should avoid Darius Slay in the slot and has led the Seahawks in air yards since he got back in the lineup.
All right, we'll stick with the quarterback position, and we all know this. There's a lot that's been said about Eli Manning over the course of this season, even over the course of this past week. But that said, he didn't have a bad outing last time out. He was 24 DK points against the Falcons. He cost next to nothing. So do we play him? Do we play with fire here at $4,900 against the Redskins this week, Jeff?
No. Yeah, he had 24 fantasy points against the Atlanta Falcons. He should have had 44 points in that game. A good quarterback probably would have had like 50. He had Odell Beckham wide open, decided to run for the pylon and missed, and then got stopped a couple times. Oh, God. You do not want him in this game. Washington plays pace down. They have a pretty solid defense. The Giants are trading away their best players. I guess you could get like garbage time Eli going again, but I have zero interest on my side here.
All right, so Ian, keep years on your life and just don't play Eli Manning. Is that how this is going to go?
Man, we start the show with Brock Osweiler, and now we're ending on Eli Manning.
Hey,
come on, guys.
Hey, 2018.
No, but yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to get any more exposure to Eli, really. I mean, almost any matchup at this point, like Jeff said, the guy can't even sneak the ball in from the 1 yard line on 2 tries. So I think the interesting spot, though, is just he's still giving Odell Beckham his volume, man. This is the lowest price point we've seen on Beckham, excluding Jaguars games since 2014, as the always insightful Adam Levitan has brought up before. So I think this Redskins defense is worlds better than the Falcons. I'm off Eli this week.
Kyle Lowletta time.
Oh, boy.
No, please no.
The Richmond Spider. Okay, we'll see if that happens down the way. Maybe like week 17. We'll maybe dip
Do you think
toes.
OBJ would have signed that huge contract, that extension?
All
if
of
you
a
knew
sudden
that
sees Kyle Lowletta out there taking snaps. It'd be insane. All right, boys. Thanks for the info. We're going to put a bow on this program with some NBA talk coming up next. But first, our own Pat Mayo is giving us his Buffalo Wild Wings hot picks.
Pat Mayo here with your Thursday night hot picks for the Week 8 opener, Dolphins Texans, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Hopefully, we can get a more competitive Thursday nighter than last week, but might be asking a bit much. The Texans have reeled off 4 wins in a row, are back at home, and get a severely banged up Dolphins squad on a short week. Miami looks like they might be down Ryan Tannehill, Albert Wilson, and Kenny Stills in Houston, which means they should probably turn to the running game. Problem is, the Texans are a top 5 run defense. That's horrible news for them. Still, down so many receiving options, you have to fire up Kenyon Drake, who's integrated himself quite nicely into the passing game the past few weeks with Brock Osweiler under center, and should see more usage this week with so many receivers watching from the sidelines. From the Houston side of the ball, and in my captain spot, I'm going to dial up Will Fuller. Back as close to 100% as he's going to get all season, the big play potential from the speedster provides game-breaking fantasy point totals that I want at the top of my lineup. Plus, Kiki Cutie's already been ruled out Thursday, so the target concentration should be a little bit higher than usual for Will Fuller. Oh, and if you're looking for a sneaky play from the Texans side of things, with Cutie on the sidelines, running back Tyler Ervin filled in for his slot duties against Jacksonville. So keep up on reports, but that could be where you save all your salary this week. Those were the Thursday night hot picks for Dolphins Texans. I'm Pat Mayo.
All right, back here on The Sweat and back talking about the NBA with our experts, DK Live's Julian Edlow, the Action Network's Matt LaMarca, and Phantom Sports' Adam McCunta.
Wow, those are some power names there. Let's look at some NBA over-unders. Starting in the land, Kevin Love is out tonight with foot soreness. Oh, poor guy. Larry Nance Jr. will likely fill his role, so will he go over or under 25 DK points against Detroit? Julian, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go over here. I mean, just looking at the game log, Larry Nance Jr. had 20.5 DK points in 20 minutes against the Brooklyn Nets. Unfortunately, he's not drawing the starting role. That's going to be Channing Frye, but you got to think that he gets enough minutes off the bench to reach 25 DK points in this game. At 4,400, that's only a little bit more than reaching value at what he was priced at with Love in the game, so you got to like the over here.
Matt, same?
I'm actually going with the slightest of unders. We have him projected right now for 24.6 at Fantasy Lab. So, I mean, basically right on the mark. So kudos to the DraftKings line maker over there. I think Nance is still going to be on some sort of a minutes limit. You know, he's definitely been limited in his first couple of games back from injury for the Cavs. Julian already mentioned that Channing Frye is going to start. So I think even with Love out of the lineup, we should be, pretty cautious about the amount of minutes that we're projecting for Nance. But like Julian said, he's so cheap at 4,400 that, You don't really need to overthink this one. Even if he is slightly under 25 points, that would still make him a good play.
Last but not least, Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's going to go over, and to further, prove on Julian's point earlier, in the first game of the season, he played 17 minutes and had 19.5 points, DraftKings points. So he's going over a point a minute, and you got to think that Fry's just starting for a little bit. He's going to come in, and with Love not in the lineup, that means more opportunities for rebounds, more opportunities on the offensive end. I think if he gets those 23 to 24 minutes, he's going to easily surpass that 25 number if that 1 point per minute average expands, and especially with Love not on the court.
All right, next question, moving on. Blake Griffin went wild in his last game and dropped 82 DK points against Philly.
Just cash
82. Over or under 60 for Blake tonight against the Cavs? Adam, let's stick with you. What do you think?
I'm going to be really bold here and go over. And I think the reason I want to do that is simply because of the lack of interior, like a lack of a real interior presence. Thank you for the hot take. With Love not in the lineup. I don't trust Tristan Thompson to slow him down. I don't think Larry Nance will slow him down. I certainly don't think Channing Frye is going to slow him down. He's been on a roll the last couple of games. So for me, Blake Griffin, he's hot. He could shoot the three now, which is something I never thought I'd ever see him do consistently. And look, he's going to hit his free throws now too. He's a better free throw shooter than he ever was. So I'll go over and go bold there with that little hot take. Griffin over that 60.
Everyone just selling out for the graphics here. Shout out to Aiden in our graphics department. But what do you think, Julian?
Yeah, well, nobody on the Cavs is going to stop Blake Griffin, but his minutes might, because with no Kevin Love, this Detroit team is pretty good. This game could get out of hand pretty quick. So I've got to go under 60 here. The 82 the other night was very impressive, but it did come in overtime, and it did come without Andre Drummond playing in that overtime period. You'll remember Joel Embiid had that flop that got Andre Drummond ejected. Griffin has topped 60 in another game this season, but this is a guy, he's off to a hot start. Kudos to Blake Griffin, but he started the season opening up at $8,200 on DraftKings. He's now $9,600. I think he's overpriced, and I think he's going to be under 60 DraftKings points. Sorry for the cold take.
Actually, Matt, wait 1 second. I have to amend a previous statement. It was actually Jay Brennan with the credit to that graphic, not Aiden. I deserve that. I deserve that.
Hard work that Jay puts in.
No, yeah, Aiden, sorry. So going to you, actually, Matt, what do you think?
I think that Kevin Love's people get in touch with Adam. I never knew he was a defensive stopper until today, but Adam has woken me up on that point, I guess. I never knew that he had the potential to slow down Blake Griffin. This is too high. I mean, Griffin has been awesome to start the year, but he shot over 53% from the field and over 60% from three-point range. That's obviously not sustainable, so he's due to come back to earth eventually. I think this is probably the spot where it starts.
All right, fair enough. I mean, if we want to be party poopers on this, then fine. We'll go with the logical thinking. It's fine. Don't worry about it. All right. Thinking about not logical thinking sometimes is Russell Westbrook. He looked actually like Russell Westbrook in his season debut, dropping 59 fantasy points. The question is, though, does he go over the 50 mark against the Celtics tonight, Matt?
Yeah, mash the over here. If you look at him at 10,500 on DraftKings, that's just way too cheap for him. He's averaged over 55 DK points with a comparable salary over the past 3 seasons. So I get that the Celtics are a tough matchup, but Kyrie Irving is definitely still exploitable as a defender. Maybe Adam will correct me there as well. But yeah, I think Westbrook, you just got to kind of mash him in tonight. I think it's just too cheap of a salary.
All right, Adam, what do we think?
Well, first, I didn't say that Love was some defensive.
Retracting his statement.
He's a big body, he takes up space. I mean, that's all I said. I'm gonna go over too. I mean, Westbrook's a dynamo for that team. I just think he's gonna have an enormous performance. He's gonna want to put on a show against Boston. And to his point, Irving plays little to no defense, maybe even less than Kevin Love. So to me, give me Westbrook, who's just going to try to take over the game. Only his second game back, so he's pretty well rested. Give me Westbrook over.
All right, quickly, Julian, what do we think?
Yeah, you got to go over 50 here on Westbrook, but I will say I like both Jokic and LeBron to return more points per dollar than Russell Westbrook.
All right.
I'll take that bet.
All right. Oh, I like it. I like it, boys. I like it. All right, guys.
All right, so really quick, one-word answer, slate approved. Julian.
Slate approved is Jokic for me. The Lakers cannot defend centers.
Matt?
Gary Harris.
Adam?
Jokic. Give me Jokic all day. Love the matchup. Lakers on a back-to-back. No one to stop them down low.
There we go. All right.
Beautiful.
Wrapping it up with
Beautiful.
the slate-approved picks. Well, what'd you learn? Really quick.
I learned that Jimmy Butler may get traded. So, you know what? Go to that DK Live app. Keep that posted as we kind of go along here with this Jimmy Butler news. But we got to get out of here. That'll do it for us in this edition of The Sweat. Big thanks to our experts, and be sure to check us out by hitting the Watch tab on the DK Live app for all the latest news. And we'll be back here at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, and so should you. For Reid, Fowler, the producers in the back, and all of our experts, I'm Tyler Sullivan. Good luck in all your daily contests.
Thanks, guys.